Good morning! Halika, magkape tayo. Welcome to the Morning Coffee with Father Jerry. Our text for today, or today's reflection, is from St. Luke chapter 17 verses 26 to 37. It says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married, they were given in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, as it was in the days of Lot, they ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. But on the day when Lot went out from Sodom, fire and sulfur ruined from heaven and destroyed them all. So it will be on the day when the Son of Man is revealed. On that day let him who is on the housetop with his goods in the house not come down to take them away, and likewise let him who is in the field not to turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever seeks to gain his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life will preserve it. I tell you, in that night there will be two in one bed, one will be taken and the other is left. There will be two women grinding together, one will be taken and the other is left. And they said to him, Where, Lord? He said to them, Where the body is, there the eagles will be gathered together. Thus far is the reading of today's text. What is it for us? What is God's message for all of us in this particular gospel? Nakakatakot. Di ba? Nakakatakot. Indeed. Maybe dahil unang-una, continuation ito sa gospel natin yesterday about preparation for the kingdom of God, for the coming of Jesus on the second time. Today's gospel. So hindi ako nagkakamali. That's why ang starting na statement ko, nakakatakot. Nakakatakot indeed. Can you just imagine? Dalawa gumagawa sa bahay, one will be taken, the other is left, and yung nag-work sa field, one is taken, and then one is left, and it will happen as if ang nangyayari sa time ni Noah, ganun din ang pangyayari sa pagdating ng Panginoon, and so on and so forth. We don't literally interpret the whole text today. As a continuation of the gospel yesterday, yes, it talks about preparation. But particularly it talks about the coming of Jesus in the context of salvation. So, yan din ang maging theme ng ating reflection today. I-continue din natin ang reflection ng ating gospel text yesterday. So to continue, let's talk about kaligtasan or salvation, because the whole story in the gospel of St. Luke today speaks to us one thing, na I've been using this term several times na. That for God, the salvation of one is the salvation of all. Hindi lang piling-pili ang dapat mag-reunited and living in union with God, the Father, in the next life, kundi lahat. Lahat. And even those people who are in this moment, in this life at the moment, are into a trying moments in their life, tayo lahat ay pinagbibigyan niya ng pagkakataon. Dahil nga, when you talk about salvation, it talks about personal, individual accountability. Maliban sa sinasabing salvation of one is the salvation of all. Pero andun pa rin yung hindi mawawala yan, ang sinasabi natin individual accountability of what has been done during our life or temporary stay in this life. That's why some other time he reminds us, he talks to us about accountability of what's happening. How do we manage our life on earth? So, i-distinguish din natin ang mga bagay-bagay na ito in the context of salvation for all. Sabi nga sa Gospel, this text speaks of the second coming of Jesus. Out of this difficult passage, we can pick only the things which are certain to us, certain, sure. One, that there will be times when the Christian, all of us, will long for the coming of Christ. That is in Revelation chapter 6 verse 10. But we need to be patient in prayer while waiting for the coming of Jesus. We continue working while waiting. Especially yan ang theme ng ating season of Advent. Continue working while praying and waiting for the coming of God. God takes His own time. Second, the coming of Christ is certain, sure yan. But its time is quite unknown. We only speculate. People will come with false prophecies, as I've mentioned and emphasizes today, and false predictions. But we must not leave our ordinary work to follow them. The best way that Christ can come to us is when we faithfully and humbly prepare ourselves for that event. Every day, as I've said, is a day of preparation. Remember that. Number 3, when the day comes, the judgments of God will operate individually. Yun yung individual accountability. The judgments of God will operate individually. Although it is His plan to save everyone, but He makes sure that each one is made to account his personal life. Salvation is both objective and subjective. I-explain ko yan. So the judgment of God is an individual judgment. We cannot discharge our duty to God by proxy, nor even by association. Often, one will be taken and another left. Right? Then fourth, when they asked Jesus when all this would happen, that simply meant that a thing would happen when the necessary conditions were fulfilled. That means for us that God will bring Jesus Christ again in His perfect time. We cannot know the time. We dare not speculate about it. We must live so that whenever He comes, at morning, at midday, or at evening, He will find us ready for that event. Our challenge today is, I'd like to put this into a question. Are we ready for His coming? And that this reflection today is being sealed from yesterday's sharing and today's part of our point of sharing. And that is about salvation of one is the salvation of all, but there is still the personal, actual, individual accountability of our own life here on earth. Okay? So, anong challenge dito mga kapatid? Ang challenge natin with that question, pero gusto ko lang i-explain kunti further yung tinatawag nating salvation. During my college days, philosophy time, we learned to distinguish things. We were taught how to distinguish ideas, distinguish matters, and so on and so forth. So, dito ko din natutunan, nalalaman how to distinguish this thing, this matter, this concept of salvation. So, generally, the way we understand salvation is that all of us, as Jesus promised, has a special place in my Father's house. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. I will prepare all that rooms for you. I will come back here and take you to that place in my Father's house because I want you to be with me in my Father's house. Okay? That's the biblical support reference what I have just said about salvation for everyone. So salvation is not just for one, it's for all. Pero philosophy distinguishes salvation into two. So gamitin ko lang itong sharing para mas lalo nating maiintindihan. So there is such thing as objective salvation and subjective salvation. Okay, what is objective salvation? Let us imagine ourselves, humanity, people of God, on the journey. But before the first coming of Jesus, or before Jesus came into this world, there was that humanity on the journey. But that journey is a aimless journey. Aimless in the sense na hindi natin alam saan tutungo ang journey ito. Saan bang papapunta ang journey dito? Kasi walang i-promise na destination. So, we travel, we walk, we journey, lalakbay. Basta lalakbay tayo. But when Jesus came to us, He put an end to suffering and death. Ano ibig sabihin nito? When He came down to us, He offered Himself with that once and for all sacrifice by dying on the cross in payment of our sin. One final offering of Himself, because before there were already offerings made to worship God by animal worship. Iba't ibang forms ng worship ay nangyayari na before His time. So when He came over during the first coming, He set a destination for all of us. Humanity, ito na ang destination niyo. Destination, heaven. So, objectively, sigurado na tayo na obviously, kita na natin, alam na natin na may patutunguhan na ang ating paglalakbay. And this paglalakbay, ginawa din Jesus by offering His life, dying on the cross. So by dying on the cross, He is offering all of us, ultimately, objectively, a life in heaven. So, when I say objective salvation, meron na tayong object na patutunguhan. Objectively, kahit malayo pa tayo, sure na tayo sa ating pananaw na meron tayong sigurado yung destination. With the subjective salvation, parang yes, already, but not yet, using the same principle again. So, objectively, yes, whether you die today, tomorrow, whatever, wherever, sure ka na may pupuntahan tayo. Object yan eh. Papupuntahang object or destination, sure yan. Pero may kailangan tayong personal accountability na sinasabi ko sa ating personal na buhay. That's why ang subjective salvation, no, it's not yet. Why? Because we're still alive. We're still balancing our lives, ups and downs in this life, challenges in this life. Yan pa rin ang ating reality ngayon. Pero sure na tayo, may destination. But doubly to make sure that I can get that heaven, aayusin ko ang buhay ko ngayon. And that is subjective. So subjective salvation is, yes, it's certain effort, cooperating into God's plan para maiayos natin ang ating sariling buhay. Objectively, yes, sure na yon, meron yon. But subjectively, I need to exert effort. I need to go into the process of transformation and formation. I need to follow all those precepts given to me by God to make sure na itong in-offer niyang objective sa akin ay makamit ko totally when my time comes. And that's what I meant by subjective salvation. See, so clearly, salvation is both objective, yes, ando na yan, but subjectively, we need to support each other. We need to pray each other. We need to help each other, support each other for us to really form and transform ourselves into that beautiful image of a man, an image of a man that signifies the image of Jesus in each one's life in this world. Objectively, yes, already. But subjectively, no, not yet. But surely it will come to us to make sure that Jesus has offered this life for all of us. Because He said to challenge ourselves, He said, in my Father's house, there are so many places. I'll come back to you. I will get one of you because I want you to be with me in my Father's house. But, kailangan hindi ka solo. Dapat do your part and God will do the rest for you. Okay? So, paano to, mga kapatid? I am hoping and praying na sa plain language na ginagamit natin, clearly naiintindihan natin ang mga bagay-bagay na gusto niyang ipapagawa at mangyayari sa buhay. Thank you, magandang buhay, and don't forget to drink your coffee. See you on Monday.